I wanted children so much in my life that my whole concentration is on them. A woman who is attractive, what is it for you, an attractive woman for you?
2 weeks after glowing at Venice Film Festival, Sophia Loren was rushed into emergency surgery. The fall in her bathroom wasn't just a slip, but a devastating accident that broke multiple bones. Her agent's statement felt too careful when they said recovery would take time. Since then, fake death stories have flooded the internet while she stayed hidden from view. But if you watch the video carefully, you'll notice how tightly she grips her walking stick. Something has changed in the woman who once said age was just a number. Sofia Costanza Brigida Villani Ciccolone was born on September 20, 1934, in Rome, under a cloud of shame. The hospital where she was delivered wasn't a regular one. It was meant for unwed mothers. In Catholic Italy during the 1930s, that alone made her birth a scandal. Her mother, Romilda Villani, was a beautiful woman who dreamed of acting and often got compared to Greta Garbo. But no matter her looks or talent, she couldn't hide the fact that her daughter had been born out of wedlock. That label followed Sophia for years. Even the hospital had a reputation. It was a place where society quietly sent its fallen women to give birth in secrecy. From her very first breath, Sophia's life was tangled in whispers and judgment. The man responsible for it all, Riccardo Ciccolone Murillo, didn't just walk away. He vanished. He worked for the National Railway for a time, but more importantly, he was already married when he started seeing Romilda. When she got pregnant, he refused to marry her or even stick around. He left Romilda and the baby to fend for themselves. Sophia only saw her father 3 times, once when she was 5, again at 17, and one last time in 1976, when he was on his deathbed. That final meeting was short. She told him she forgave him, but she never forgot what he had done. Even after she became one of the most famous actresses in the world, he showed no interest in being part of her life. And yet, Sophia later did something strange. She claimed her father came from nobility. In her autobiography, she referred to herself with titles like Viscountess of Pozzuoli and Marchioness of Licata. Whether the claims were true or not didn't matter. It was a way of rewriting the story. Instead of being the unwanted child of a cheating man, she turned herself into someone with aristocratic blood. It was her way of turning pain into pride. The very man who rejected her became, in her words, the source of her dignity. It was like putting a crown on the head of a child who had once been ignored. The pain didn't stop with Sophia. In 1938, her younger sister Maria was born, and their father refused to even sign her birth certificate. That meant Maria had no legal claim to his name. The cruelty of that decision left a deep scar. When Sophia became successful, she used her money to buy something more important than fame. She paid Riccardo to legally recognize Maria. It was a quiet deal, but it meant everything. Maria could finally carry the Ciccolone name. Sophia wasn't just doing it for paperwork. She was doing it so her sister wouldn't have to grow up hearing cruel jokes or being reminded daily that their father had refused her. By the time the war ended, the family had been pushed to the edge. They moved back to Pozzuoli with nothing. Sophia's grandmother, Luisa, turned their living room into an illegal bar, selling homemade cherry liquor. This wasn't just a side hustle. It was how they survived. Romilda played the piano, Maria sang to keep customers entertained, and Sophia waited tables and washed dishes. She was barely a teenager, but she already knew what it meant to work for survival. The place filled up with American soldiers, mostly GIs stationed nearby. They brought in money, food, and stories from another world. One day in 1944, the war came crashing in again. Sophia was 10 when Allied planes bombed Pozzuoli. As people ran for shelter, a piece of shrapnel sliced into her chin. It left a permanent scar. She survived, but the trauma never left her. Even as an adult, she couldn't sleep in the dark. Throughout her acting career, makeup artists worked hard to hide the scar, but she always knew it was there. That moment, that explosion, that scar, it stayed with her, shaping not just her face, but her spirit. It gave her something to draw from in emotional film scenes, especially when she played women torn apart by war. The town of Pozzuoli was bombed repeatedly because it was near a military port and a munitions factory. Planes targeted the area again and again. People lived in fear every single day. When the bombs came, families ran to hide in train tunnels, dark, cold, and filled with rats. That's where Sophia spent many nights of her childhood, huddled in the dark, waiting for the explosions to stop. The volcano nearby, Solfatara, was another source of fear. People believed that if it was hit, the entire area would blow up. For 5 years, Sophia lived in constant fear, not just of war, but of complete destruction. After the shrapnel incident, her mother had had enough. She grabbed her 2 daughters and fled to Naples. They left everything behind. Once in the city, they had to beg distant relatives for a place to stay. It wasn't just uncomfortable. It was humiliating. Multiple families crammed into tiny apartments, everyone struggling to survive. Sophia saw her mother cry while asking for food and shelter. The girl who would one day win an Oscar was just another child without a home, watching her mother beg for mercy. By 1945, the war was over, but the damage was done. Their town was in ruins. Jobs were gone. Food was scarce. The illegal cherry liquor bar came back to life. Sophia, now 11, worked every day. She cleaned, served, and did whatever it took. Hunger was a daily problem. Sometimes all they had was dry bread. She went to bed with an empty stomach more nights than she could count. But even then, she learned to survive. The adults around her were loud, drunk, and rough, but she learned how to handle them. That toughness would later help her deal with agents, producers, and all the pressures of fame. She was only 14, a skinny, shy teenager from a bombed-out town near Naples. But when Sophia Ciccoloni stepped into that beauty contest in 1950, something shifted. She wasn't even using her real name. She called herself Sophia Lazzaro and wore the sash for Lazio, candidate number 2. Nobody expected much, yet somehow she made it to the top 3. She didn't win the main title, but they gave her something just as important: Miss Elegance 1950. That title came with prize money, and that money changed everything. It gave her and her mother, Romilda, a ticket out of poverty and a way back to Rome. For them, that wasn't just a pageant, it was an escape. Just a few years earlier, they had survived bombing raids during World War II. One of those bombs left Sophia with a scar on her chin. Her classmates used to mock her. They called her Toothpick. But that night, in Heels and Hope, she wasn't a joke anymore. She was a rising star. A year later, in September 1951, everything changed again. She was just 16. He was 37. Carlo Ponti, already a powerful film producer with a wife and 2 kids, spotted her at another contest, not even on stage, just sitting at a table with friends in a restaurant near the Colosseum. He couldn't take his eyes off her. She turned him down when he first asked her to compete. So he sent a second letter through a waiter. This time, she said yes. She came in second, and that was enough for Ponti. He offered her a 7-year film contract the very same night. He said it was for her career. But years later, he admitted, "I have done everything for love of Sophia." His influence was total. He told her how to dress, how to talk, what to read. He wasn't just shaping a career, he was sculpting a person. The first thing he changed was her name. Sophia Loren sounded too Italian, too working class, too real. So, with another producer, Goffredo Lombardo, he crafted something more marketable, something that could sell around the world. Sophia Loren, a twist on Swedish actress Märta Thoren, a name that sounded glamorous, international, timeless. Before that, she'd used Sophia Lazzaro, a name people joked about because her body could raise the dead. But now, she was being completely rebranded. The girl from Pozzuoli was gone. In her place stood someone created for cinema. By 1956, Hollywood came calling. Paramount Pictures offered her a 5-film contract, something unheard of for a foreign actress. She'd already been working in Italian films for 6 years, but this was her real shot. The deal launched her into films like The Pride and the Passion with Cary Grant and Frank Sinatra, and Houseboat in 1958. One of those movies had a budget of $3.7 million, a huge sum at the time. America fell for her, fast. She wasn't just another pretty face from Europe. She had presence, and she could act. While the world watched her grow on screen, Ponti was working behind the scenes, building a persona. Loren wasn't Marilyn Monroe. She wasn't blonde or fragile. She was bold, dark-haired, and unapologetically sensual. In Boy on a Dolphin, her height caused problems. Alan Ladd had to stand in trenches to appear taller. But it didn't matter. Audiences adored her. Her films made money. And by the end of the 50s, she was the highest-paid actress in Europe, pulling in million-dollar paychecks. Ponti was ready to do anything to marry her, even if it meant breaking the law. In 1957, he arranged a secret Mexican divorce from his wife and a proxy marriage to Loren. They didn't even attend. 2 lawyers stood in their place. They found out they were married from a newspaper. Ponti thought the Mexican divorce would be recognized. He was wrong. Italy refused to accept it. In 1965, an Italian court declared their marriage invalid. It was a legal disaster that cost years of battles and thousands in fees. By 1962, things got worse. Italy charged both of them with bigamy. If convicted, they faced up to 5 years in prison. A woman named Luisa Brambilla, a random housewife from Milan, filed the charges. She thought celebrities should be held accountable. Suddenly, Loren and Ponti were fugitives in their own country. They had to live abroad. "We should have been on a honeymoon," Loren said later, "but I just remember crying for hours." It wasn't until 1966 that they found peace by becoming French citizens, approved personally by France's Prime Minister. Loren didn't let the pain stop her. In 1960, she starred in Two Women, a role that ripped open old wounds. She'd lived that horror before: bombings, starvation, hiding in tunnels. To prepare for the role of Sisira, a mother trying to protect her daughter during war, she went deep into her memories. The nights in fear, the smell of dust, her mother's courage. Directed by Vittorio De Sica, it became her most powerful performance. And then came history. On April 9, 1962, she won the Oscar for Best Actress. It was the first time the Academy gave the award to someone in a non-English language film. She was 27. She beat legends like Audrey Hepburn and Natalie Wood. She didn't even go to the ceremony. She stayed home, too nervous to face the spotlight. Cary Grant was the one who called her to deliver the news. She had broken a barrier that had lasted since 1929. In Italy, she wasn't just a star, she was the star. Loren won 7 David Di Donatello Awards for Best Actress. No one else comes close. She won her first in 1961 and her most recent in 2020, nearly 60 years apart. That last win for The Life Ahead came at age 86. It was directed by her son. She played a Holocaust survivor. "I cannot live without cinema," she said that night, and the audience believed her. But some of her best work came from her collaborations with Vittorio De Sica. He saw something in her early on, casting her in The Gold of Naples when she was just 20. She played a pizza seller who loses her ring. A small role, but unforgettable. De Sica helped her find emotional depth, especially in Two Women. They worked together on Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow and Marriage Italian Style. His direction brought out her truth, and their films defined the golden age of Italian cinema. Then there was Marcello Mastroianni. Their chemistry lit up the screen. They first acted together in 1954. Over the years, they made more than 10 films together. Loren once said, "Whenever I was offered a film with Marcello, I didn't even read the script. I just said yes." He never learned his lines. He'd show up and say, "What am I supposed to say now?" But it worked. They were electric. Their final great film together, A Special Day, showed a different side. No romance, just raw connection. She was a tired housewife. He was her gay neighbor. And they were unforgettable. Cary Grant was 53 years old when he fell hopelessly in love with Sophia Loren. She was just 23. It happened on the set of The Pride and the Passion in 1957. Grant was already married to his third wife, but none of that seemed to matter. He was drawn to Loren's beauty, elegance, and youth. Their affair started quietly during filming in Spain. Grant was smitten, and everyone around could see it. On their final night of filming, as the sun set over the hills, Grant looked more serious than usual. He turned to her and said, "Will you marry me?" Loren froze. She later said it felt like she was in a film and forgot her lines. Grant wasn't joking. He told her they could get married first and figure out everything else later. He sent letters. He sent gifts. But it didn't matter. Loren chose Carlo Ponti. "Cary belonged to another world," she said. That rejection shattered Grant. He had said he'd give up everything for her. But she walked away. While her beauty was celebrated across the world, Sophia Loren was quietly breaking apart inside. By the time she turned 29, her dream of becoming a mother had become an obsession. On movie sets, she would bond with child actors, hold them close, and stay in touch long after filming. But when she got pregnant during Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, tragedy struck. After filming a car scene in Milan, she collapsed in pain and miscarried. The sterile smell of the hospital, the white walls, the harsh lights, all of it burned into her memory. 4 years later, it happened again while filming More Than a Miracle. Another miscarriage. And this time, the doctor was cruel. "You'll never have a child," he told her coldly. Sophia sank into a deep sadness. Carlo Ponti, her husband, became so depressed he couldn't work or even smile. Loren said she felt like a failure. Fame meant nothing. She envied the new mothers she saw in the hospital. She had everything, except the one thing she truly wanted. The man she had chosen over Cary Grant wasn't just her husband. He was her director, her producer, her guide, her teacher. Carlo Ponti was 22 years older than her. When they met, she was only 15. He was 37 and already a powerful figure in Italian cinema. He told her, "I have a good eye for talent." And he wasn't wrong. He signed her in 1953 and took control. He picked her clothes. He chose her scripts. He shaped her voice, her manners, even the books she read. She later admitted, "Without him, I was never a complete woman." He became everything to her. Over 56 years, they made 37 films together. She grew under his command. And even when she became a star, his control never faded. When he died in 2007 at age 94, that grip finally loosened. But it had lasted a lifetime. It wasn't just control, it was something deeper. Loren later confessed what many had guessed. She saw Ponti not just as a husband, but as a father figure. Her own father had abandoned her. He would come and go without caring for her or her sister. She never really had a dad. So when she met Ponti, she found safety. "I needed protection," she said. "He made me feel serene." That's why she couldn't choose Cary Grant. She wasn't chasing romance. She needed stability. And Ponti gave her that, even if it came at a cost. Their love lasted 42 years, though it began in controversy. They first married by proxy in Mexico in 1957. But Italy didn't recognize divorce, and Ponti was still legally married. The courts declared their marriage invalid. The Catholic Church threatened them with excommunication, so they fled Italy. They gave up their citizenship and became French citizens. In 1966, they married again, this time legally. They had 2 sons, Carlo Jr. in 1968 and Eduardo in 1973. Their marriage survived threats, lawsuits, and scandals. And when Ponti died, Loren said, "You never get over this kind of feeling." 2 years later, when asked if she'd ever marry again, her answer was final. No, never again. In 2020, after a 10-year break from acting, Sophia Loren returned to the screen at age 86. The film was The Life Ahead, directed by her son, Eduardo Ponti. It became a Netflix sensation, hitting the top 10 in 37 countries. Loren played Madame Rosa, a Holocaust survivor and former prostitute who cared for immigrant children in southern Italy. Critics loved it. The film earned a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Loren won several awards, including the David Di Donatello and AARP's Best Actress Award. Even the film's original song got an Oscar nomination. For Loren, it was a powerful comeback. She showed that age didn't matter. Her talent had never faded. 2 years later, in 2024, she stunned everyone again. At 90 years old, she said, "I hope never to retire." She told reporters she wasn't thinking about legacy. She was thinking about her next movie. Her words shook Hollywood. She had been acting for 75 years, but she was still hungry, still dreaming. While others slowed down, Loren refused to stop. She said she felt lucky to still do what she loved. For her, age was just a number. And behind that spirit was a rule she lived by: no plan B. In that same 2024 interview, she said something few would dare say. "Never have a plan B," she warned. "When you face a problem, you find the solution, because you have no choice." That idea, born out of her tough childhood in war-torn Italy, guided her entire life. Born in 1934 as Sophia Loren, she became the first woman to win an Oscar for a non-English role in 1962. Her fierce commitment carried her through heartbreak, rejection, and missed roles, including a famous one in Dynasty. Still, she kept going. Always forward. Always with Plan A. In 2018, people started whispering that she was done, that Loren had retired. She hadn't acted in a major film since 9 in 2009, and they pointed to her earlier break in the 1980s when she chose to stay home with her sons. At the time, she had said, "I have 2 children, but I never see them." So she stepped back. Many thought she had stepped back for good, but they were wrong. When The Life Ahead hit Netflix, those rumors vanished. Her absence wasn't retirement. It was patience. That same comeback also revealed something beautiful. A mother-son collaboration that defied all the clichés. The Life Ahead was Sophia and Eduardo's third project together, and it was their best. Loren said working with him gave her a unique kind of peace. "He doesn't let me stop until I give him my best," she said. "He knows what buttons to push." She trusted him fully. And he delivered a film that proved critics wrong again. At 86, she gave one of the most powerful performances of her career. One reviewer called it extraordinary. This wasn't a favor to her son. It was a masterclass in acting. And it showed that her fire still burned, not out of nostalgia, but out of pure passion. Together, they created something timeless. On September 24, 2023, just 4 days after turning 89, Sophia Loren fell in her bathroom at her villa near Lake Geneva. The fall was brutal. She fractured her hip and badly broke her femur. It happened so suddenly, in the middle of what should have been a joyful time. Only weeks earlier, she had been glowing in an ivory pantsuit at the Venice Film Festival, sitting front row at Giorgio Armani's show. Now she was rushed into emergency surgery. Her agent confirmed the operation went well, but said recovery would take time. That same week, she had to cancel the grand opening of her 4th restaurant in Bari, Italy. Doctors had to work on multiple fractures during that surgery. It was one of the most serious health scares she'd ever faced. Her 2 sons, Carlo Jr. and Eduardo, flew in immediately. Carlo was 55 and Eduardo 51 at the time. They stayed by her side at the hospital in Switzerland. For an actress who had stayed sharp and strong into her late 80s, this was a hard turn. Her agent warned fans recovery would take months. There was no talk of when she'd leave the hospital. It was clear this wasn't just another fall, it was a battle. And while Loren fought to heal, the internet did something cruel. Rumors started spreading. Websites and social media posts began claiming she was dead. They used fake obituaries, even claimed she had brain cancer. None of it was true, but the lies spread fast, faster than the truth. In 2021, a fake tweet about her death had gone viral with over 50,000 shares before it was exposed. By late 2023, Google searches showed more fake stories than real ones. Even though fact-checkers like Snopes and Reuters stepped in, people kept sharing the hoaxes. Researchers found that almost 40% of celebrity news online came from sources that weren't even verified. Then, in May 2024, something beautiful happened. Loren was seen in public again. On May 29th, she went out to dinner at Cipriani in West Hollywood. That was 8 months after the fall. She wore a leopard print blazer, black trousers, and rose gold glasses. Her curls were perfectly styled. She looked elegant, strong, and alive. She smiled at fans and held a black and white walking stick, decorated in style. Her son called it bedazzled. That walking stick wasn't just for balance, it was a symbol. Sophia Loren wasn't disappearing. She was walking back into the world on her own terms. Just 3 days after her surgery back in 2023, she had already thanked her fans. Through her agent, she said, "I thank everyone for the closeness and affection that they are showing me. I am better, just have to do rehabilitation and give myself a period of rest." The message was short, but powerful. She didn't hide behind publicists. She showed grace, even while healing. That message was also shared by her restaurant team, the same team that had announced her fall. It told the world she wasn't giving up, just slowing down. By September 2024, she was 90 years old, and she didn't spend it quietly. Giorgio Armani, also 90, hosted a private dinner for her. A video from the night showed Loren glowing in a glittering silver dress with diamonds around her neck. When guests sang "Happy Birthday," she covered her face in joyful surprise, then clapped along with the crowd. Armani posted old black and white photos of them together, her kissing his cheek, her leaning on his shoulder. it was more than a birthday. It was a tribute to survival, beauty, and a bond that had lasted decades. This celebration wasn't just about turning 90. It was about rising from pain, smiling through the scars, and reminding the world that Sophia Loren still had her sparkle.